Hello everyone, welcome back to Creative Chaos, and welcome to those that are brand new to the channel. I hope you enjoy your time here. So when I first got this ink tracing book, I really I remember commenting and thinking about how cool it would be to use alcohol markers in a color that was similar to what I had already, or the colors that were already on the page. And so that's what I decided to do with my brand new set of alcohol markers. So I'm just looking for a page here that I haven't done already, that will give me enough open spaces, because with my experience the first time with alcohol markers, I know that they don't necessarily bleed, but depending on the paper, they will expand a little bit. And so I saw this picture and thought, oh, this is perfect, because it's not too intricate. It's got some bigger white spaces on it, and I thought that it would just be a perfect decision. So I got this marker. It's burnt sienna, and thought that this would be good for all of the white spaces. It was one of the darker of the browns that I had, and struggled to get it open, but finally did. Now this video is going to jump around a lot. I'm doing it at 2 times the speed, and so because I go from place to place, it'll jump around a lot. So I apologize for that, but it was pretty good. I the marker set that I got has either a brush tip or a chisel nib. I guess a brush nib or a chisel nib. And so I decided to try the brush nib first. Wasn't sure about it, and so I went, as you can see over here, to the chisel nib. But that was even worse than the brush nib, so I quickly put that away and went back to the brush nib. As you'll see in just a second, I just didn't care for the chisel nib at all. So I went back to the brush nib, and it did a better job. It expanded more. I hate to use the term bleeding, because bleeding means it's going places that you don't intend it to do. This did definitely fill in the spaces, the thicker spaces that I needed it to, without really going outside of the lines, but it was difficult to work with, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm making any sense. There were some good things and some bad things about using them. Some good things, I even wrote it down just so that I could refer to it, is the colors. Oh my goodness, I was able to match the colors fantastically with what I had. And so it just looks like it's a natural shading to what I was working with. One of the bad thing was the colors go on darker than they dry as, and so this went on darker, and I thought it was going to be more of a shading color than it ended up ultimately being. It dried a little bit lighter, and you'll see that especially as I go into the area where there was a big empty space. Oh, forgive me. So I would have gone with some darker colors, had I known that. If I had darker colors, I guess I should say. I would have gone with darker colors, just to make the shading more pronounced. But I'm still happy with what it ended up being. I'm still very, very happy with the burnt sienna, and then later I use, I think, a cinnamon color for some of the lighter shading. And you'll notice that in ink tracing, they have white areas and then they have gray areas. They'll have kind of a light gray or a dark gray. And so the darker the gray, excuse me, the lighter the color you want to use. And so, but instead of going to a third shade of brown, which I really didn't have a lot of browns to choose from. I just used the cinnamon on both of the grays, and the use of the gray underneath the alcohol marker actually made a difference in the shading anyways. So, and that was another good thing about this, is that you can see the other colors underneath. Actually, it ended up being a good thing and a bad thing. You could see the other colors underneath the alcohol marker. Okay, that's what I was trying to say. You could see them, and so when it comes to shading, it was perfect. Now, if you happen to go over a line that you weren't supposed to go over, then it doesn't look so good. You'll notice when I go to this bigger section to the right where my hand is kind of covering, I made the decision to just go over all of the gray just to see what would happen. And it ended up I don't know that I'd say it looked good. I think it would have looked better with an actual different color with the cinnamon on there instead of the burnt sienna, because it was actually supposed to go lighter and not darker. But I was just experimenting. I was just trying things out and seeing what would happen. And so it gives it an automatic shading, that gray underneath. And so that's why I chose to do it with the cinnamon. It with just cinnamon afterwards, even though it's sometimes a dark gray, sometimes a light gray, just because it gave an automatic shading underneath. It was pretty cool. Now, if I had been able to do that with a pen, you would have seen a lot of that gray underneath it, and so I liked that we were able to cover up that gray. The next thing that I didn't like was that there was no fine tip for extra small lines, and that just happens to be a part because of the set that I got. The set that I got has a chisel nib and a brush nib, and so that's the only difference there. That's the only problem there. Now, this is when I start making the decision to just go ahead and cover up all of the gray areas, because it's such a big area, and I wanted to see the difference. And I think I even end up covering up some of the browns that I do, because it did start to bleed into some of the browns, and you could tell the difference where it just looks like, it doesn't look like I did that on purpose. It looks like it looks like the colors bled, and so I made that decision to just cover everything up as I go along. And you can kind of see, especially on that big area I just did, some of the some of the shading coming through, the gray areas coming through. Oh, excuse me. Now, this is where it got really complicated. There were just so many areas to cover, and then you can see where it's kind of going on to, first of all, you can see the difference in the colors. Look at that dark that's going on as compared to how it looks when it's drier. I thought when I first started putting it down that I was getting this dark color, and then it ended up not being that way. And I'm still okay with how it turned out. It's still darker than the rest of the coloring page for the most part, but I still think that dark color would have been better. And so you can see me going back in and just coloring in on some of those rocks, just to make them look like a 3-year-old wasn't coloring in and going over the lines. It just didn't look good. So Let's see. Another good thing about the markers is a lot of good coverage. It doesn't look like you couldn't see the lines. You could actually see. Yeah, sorry, I just jumping from place to place. You could. There were no lines when I was going over, especially those large areas. They blend together beautifully, and just makes it look fantastic. And then in these little lines, it really does fill it in. I struggled with that with my fine liner pens that I was using to try to fill in all of the different areas. But then the bad thing about that is when you got tiny little areas that you need to fill in, it does bleed a little bit, and that could have everything to do with alcohol markers. It could have everything to do with the paper I was using. This seemed like really good quality paper. I don't know if it's Amazon printed or not. I haven't taken a look, but it was it doesn't feel like cheap paper. It feels like something a little different from that. And so it really, but it was just frustrating when you're trying to get in these tiny little lines and then it's going bigger and bolder than before. So those are my opinions on using the alcohol markers on an ink tracing book. This is the only other ink tracing book I have is one where you're literally just filling in architectural lines. And so it's not quite the same as this, where you'd be doing shading and differences in oh gosh, what's the word I want? Differences in the shading areas, like with the grays. And so, would I recommend doing it? Absolutely. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I love how everything came together in the end. I love that you can't even tell that I was basically just following a bunch of white lines and filling in some areas that they had left for me, basically. I felt like more of an artist, which was awfully nice. Would I do it again? Absolutely. I would love to, but I would almost love to try doing both. Maybe doing the fine lines with my fine liners and then going over everything after it's dried, going over everything with the alcohol markers, just to fill in any white lines that are left over. Now, if you see me leave any patches along this, it's because there is a light gray area, and you can see I'm just covering over all of the lines. They just kept running into each other anyways, and so it was just easier to simply just color over everything, and then it all matches. But I loved the picture itself, the little mushroom motif. I've always been interested in watching people color mushrooms and draw mushrooms, and I've kind of always wanted to try it myself, but never have. Maybe that will be a sketchbook idea one of these days, where I actually get brave enough to try drawing things, anything. But mushrooms are a particular favorite of mine. Oh, forgive me. This weather has we've got so much smoke in the area from local wildfires that have just inundated Utah. It's just crazy, and so my lungs are not happy. They feel spongy. I don't know if you've ever had that experience where your lungs just feel spongy, but it's like they're just soaking up any of the humidity in the air, and then the smoke doesn't help much, so I've just been coughing like crazy. So I hope you all are doing well. Um, this summer, we're actually starting to cool down at nights, which is awfully nice. The So we have a swamp cooler. I think I told you this before. That's what the loud noise in the background ends up being when it turns on, but it's not on consistently like it used to be. It is during the day because we're still getting up into the 90s here in Utah, but we're not, knock on wood, hitting the hundreds, and so grateful for that because a swamp cooler just can't keep up with that kind of heat. And if you ever wonder what a swamp cooler is, just Google it. It's too tech. It's not technical, but I don't want to explain the swamp cooler. So we're getting near to the end of using the burnt sienna, and then we'll go over to using the cinnamon, and I really like the cinnamon. It's a lighter color, really pretty. Here I tried it. You can kind of see how it's just enveloping everything. Okay, I'll admit it. I kept saying it wasn't bleeding, but it's bleeding. It's bleeding into the area. You can definitely tell. So here we go. And I pulled out this really light color of brown, and that is the cinnamon. So, and then I struggled to get the lid off. I always struggle to get the lid off because they're brand new. But they're a lighter brown. And I just really love the way it complements everything. It just blends right into this page. So I'm usually not an orangey brown fan, but it was such a pleasure to watch all of this come together. So now you're just going to see me going into all the areas that are gray. If I had an even lighter brown, and I probably did, I could have used this on the darker gray colors. No. Is that right? Yeah, I could have used this on the darker gray colors and then used the... because in the white, you're supposed to fill it completely in. Or at least that's from my understanding. Now, on the darker gray colors, you can just do some shading. They have some explanations at the beginning, instructions, I should say, at the beginning of the book that shows you different techniques you can use, like dotting or hash marks, to fill everything in. And so, but since I'm just using alcohol markers, that's just what I'm going to use to fill everything in. So it's just a matter of finding all of my little gray areas. I'm running out of things to say. Can you tell I'm running out of things to say? But we've only got, 4 minutes left. We've got 4 minutes left and I can do this. So we went and watched Spider-Man yesterday. Oh my goodness, you guys. Spider-Man Brand New Day, such a good movie. Lots of language in it, but that's kind of what you expect for PG-13. But it was really well done. It reminded me of when Marvel first started coming out with these movies, and the quality of the storytelling and just grabbing you emotionally. It's exactly like that. It was so well done. I am so glad that they took a break from making movies for a while so that they could come out with something as quality as this. It was awesome. And so I highly recommend that you see it. If you are a fan of Marvel, if you are a fan of Spider-Man, then I really recommend you go and see it. We went as a family, and just everybody, even my husband, who never talks about movies afterwards. You ask him how it was, and he's like, yeah, it was good. And that's high praise from him. He actually talked about the movie afterward. It was awesome. And so just Just an excellent movie. I just can't recommend it enough. If you can't see it in the movie theaters, wait till it comes out on video. Definitely worth having. Definitely worth having. And just, I love Tom Holland as Spider Man. He's just, he is a quality actor. Um, and Zendaya as, oh, I'm gonna feel bad now that I don't know. Well, Zendaya as MJ did an amazing job, heartbreaking job, and I can't remember Ned's Ned's actor's name, and now I feel guilty. But he's just the perfect Ned. He's the perfect best friend for Peter Parker. Anyways, well, I think I'm going to let you go now. It's close enough that we are just about done. I hope that you enjoyed watching this come together. Um, it really was fun to do. I'm definitely going to do it again and see what I can do as far as maybe blending the two things together. Like I said, blending the intricacies with a black marker, or I may just get myself a whole new set with fine tip nibs from, oh, I don't know. We'll wait and see. Anyways, I hope that you all have a great day. I hope you make it a great week, and we will see you next week. Take care, everybody. Bye bye. Okay, I'm popping back in. I know I said we were done, but I'm popping back in because I remembered that I'm showing you the difference with, let's see, I'll put my finger in there in a minute. The difference between two different colors of gray. There was the darker on the left and the brighter on the right. And so you really could see a difference just in the different shades of gray. So, okay, now I'm done. Bye bye.